numbering about 20, will be set up nationwide to run as private entities. There would be secretariats in places like Navrongo, Akwemufie, Breman, Esikuma, Teshi, Juabing, Jasikan, Nanton, Yo, Aring, and Ahenekoko in the Bronwahafo region.
The project is being supported by the World Bank and other development partners.
What's the key focus of that support?
The support is total. Apart from CEDA, that is more focused into rural development, the World Bank itself is funding most of the project's funds are coming from them.
What legal dimensions determine the rules that each of these traditional areas use in administering their lands?
And the starting point is the Constitution. Under Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution, it sets out what the sources of law in Ghana are. It talks about the Constitution as the supreme one. It talks about acts of parliament. It talks about subsidiary legislation. Then it mentions the common law of Ghana and defines the common law of Ghana to include customary law.
To ascertain the right information on who administers lands on behalf of the families within the communities, traditional authorities, farmers, and indeed ordinary people are consulted to find out who the key people are in order to avoid controversy. Information gathered is often validated to ensure its authenticity.
Ascertaining customary law is not an easy thing. On the average, to ascertain customary law from each traditional area, you need about 4 months, about between 2 to 3 months to collect the data, because you have to send people in. They have to first of all do a profiling of the area. You have to send data collectors in for them to have some focus group meetings, some key person interviews, and then try and find a way of harmonizing the information. We have also spoke with people with disability. We spoke with the youth because we wanted to find out what their perceptions, all these people's perceptions on land and family issues are.
For every project, the key issue is funding.
There is a broad amount of money allocated to this under the decentralization of service delivery component of our work, and Customer Land Secretary is part of that, and it's costing about $4.68 million US. What we did in Lab 1 was that we decided at that time to go through what we call a supply-led approach. We rather went to the NANOMA and told them, look, we've come and we want to help you do that. And basically, that was problematic in a sense that they didn't have any sense of ownership. They did not show any commitment because the thing was foisted on them. And under Lab 2, it is rather a demand-driven approach where we rather telling them to apply if they're really interested in it and make sure that, for instance, they provide office space and have some people where they think they have already some human resource personnel we could do train. And once they do that, we're able to come to help to their aid.
We also sought to find out what conditions must exist to make one eligible as a beneficiary of this project.
You may have to commit yourself to subjecting yourself to alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to resolve issues on boundaries. And so there's some sort of interlinkage between the Customer Land Secretariat, their establishment, and then the customer boundary demarcation we are doing for traditional authorities.
But how about the National House of Chiefs and their contribution towards the project?
They've been quite helpful in terms of they coming to listen and wanting to know what they could do to be able to do their part in terms of land administration in this country. We've got what we call the Ascertainment of Customary Law project, which we are doing. They are doing, the National House of Chiefs are doing with the Ghana law reform, and that is also another aspect of things we are doing, where we're trying them to let them ascertain customary rights to land, the way they were sent to the throne and things like that, and so on. And this is something that is critical to the National House of Chiefs. That we are working with them, and they are really driving the process.
Welcome back to Joy News Exclusive, and today we're talking about lands in the hands of chiefs, specifically customary land administrations. We've seen that most of you have sent in some of your comments, and I particularly like the comment of Andrew, who is advising Amos that you should have checked from the registry if indeed some documents were genuine. And Andrew again says that there must be a unity. There must be unity in the administration of Stuland. So, Mr. Moa, let's quickly run through some of these concerns that came on Facebook. For example, somebody didn't even know that the community owned the land and not a particular chief.
Yeah, that is, you see, it's about the definition of what we call Stuland. I think in the first part, I made it clear that the stool comprises two groups of people: the subject and the leadership. The leadership are the chief, the Ohima and the Chiami and those groups. Then the subject. These two group of people crop up to form the totality of a stool. So if we say Stuland, it's principally a congregation of lands occupied by members of the stool.
There shouldn't be one man, one chop.
No. So that is why in most jurisdictions you realize that when somebody is put or installed, a piece of land is reserved for that person. We normally say asasiwe de atuakonya, which simply means that whoever is the chief, that piece of land is what you have the exclusive right to use. But the land for your subjects, you can never dispose of without their prior consent and concurrence. They have to accept. So if a stranger comes to you that he has seen this land and he wants it, you, the chief, should not sit in your palace, go into agreement with the person, take money, and apparently give the land to. You have to call the family who have been occupying and using that land and tell them the story that this person wants this land. So if they accept it, then the negotiations and everything, they have to be part of it. In fact, they have to get a lion's share of the money. But because it's stool land, individuals can't give. It is the entire stool that has to give. And the chief is the head of the stool. So apparently when it comes to documentation, he has to sign on behalf of the stool. But it doesn't mean that he has to take the money from the land.
Share
that is it.
Yeah,
yes, he has to talk with the family. They all have to come to a consensus before the land is disposed of. If the family insists that they are not going to allow the land to go, I don't think the chief have right to take the land by force. It is only the state that have that right of eminent domain
to take the land,
by force.
No chief has.
But that one too, they have to pay prompt and adequate compensation. Right. But chiefs, you can't do that. In the olden days, if you do that, you can be destroyed because you are taking the livelihood out of the mouth of your people.
So, I mean, in the effort to streamline customary land administration, what is the level of cooperation from the chiefs and customary leaders, community leaders in this effort of yours?
Yeah, in the lap one, because it was the state that selected the areas. What we called, it was supply led. We supplied the customary land secretariat to them. So most of the chiefs, they did not own the project. They thought it was a state intervention in their land administration. And you know, some of these landowners, they do a lot of underground things, and they didn't want the state to come in. So virtually, we had a problem. Few of the chiefs and landowners accepted it because we educated them on it and they accepted. But some of them were still skeptical about the whole process. So we never had the cooperation we wanted.
Okay.
But with the second phase, which is demand-led, it means they have to demand. We have set out.
What's the meaning of that? I mean, they have to demand what from you?
They have to apply for customary land secretariat to be established in their area.
Okay, so and that you assist them to do that.
We assist them to do that. And the Office of Administrator of Stuland prepared a manual which set out clearly what we want you to do before you qualify to have this land secretariats established in your area.
Right, Ms. Amo, I'll have you hold, and then so that we can go back to the third part of the documentary on lands in the hands of chiefs. We'll be back right in the studio for the discussion afterwards.
We headed to English Alata in Jamestown to find out what they have been doing under the Land Administration Project and whether or not they are benefiting from this initiative with regards to Accra lands.
English Alata traditional area falls within, from Jamestown proper, that is British Accra, to the borders of the western part of Accra, that is Langma. We share boundary with Nyanyano up to Bojuase area, where J. Kodwa up to Adesu. So when you talk about Jamestown lands, we fall within 3 or 4 municipal assemblies, that is Accra Metro, Ghana West, Ghana South, and part of Ghana Central. It's a very large area. And the issues that we know this CLS is going to address is about management of these lands and how we can get resources from after even the caretakers have sold the lands to individual clients. When you come to the major area like Jamestown, there are areas like the work, the housing that are within the area where there are no documents. And we know through this CLS, we're going to streamline getting documents for all the houses that are within the Jamestown proper. We go to Kolegono, Mamprobi, Choko, Dansoman, up to all those areas that I've already mentioned.
The Stool Secretary is very optimistic that the project will assist the traditional authorities to monitor development of their areas and gradually bring an end to land border dispute and help them raise revenue through the collection of ground rents and proper documentation of their land.
It's going to assist us to look at some of our boundary disputes with the central region where administrative boundaries comes in, and then political and traditional structures are. For instance, this morning, a town like Ulagono, which is within the traditional area, falls under the Senya Briku district. And so some of these things we know will be addressed when this CLS is working. These commercial properties don't pay anything after acquiring the land, putting up their structures. And we know with this CLS, we're going to collect these ground rents to assist the assemblies and then the traditional authorities to get at least some form of monies every time to manage or to develop the respective areas and then the traditional area.
He equally believes that the program will help minimize land cases in court, as well as the incidents and engagement of land guards.
In the area of where disputes are coming up, that is where land guards, the law courts are all choked with land dispute matters. So when this instrument is being used, we know it is going to solve all these problems.
We also caught up with the Greater Accra Regional Stool Officer, who explained a few issues.
It is the first point of contact for somebody who wants to acquire land. Now, when the CLS is formed, we also form a land management committee. And this land management committee is supposed to work hand in hand with the CLS. The land management committee, the members are supposed to come from the traditional council. So, for example, if they have, let's say, 18 divisional stools under the traditional authority, we expect that there will be 18 members in the land management committee, each from one divisional council.
Well, it appears there is hope in sight.
Welcome back. I'll wrap today's show with a few more of your comments. Fred Nogbe says, to ensure proper land administration, I suggest all lands within the borders of Ghana should belong to the state. In fact, our cities can't be planned as modern cities just because of the present land tenure system. Even government roads and parks are sold to multiple buyers. We need to follow examples of developed countries like South Africa, US, etc. And Godfred Prey says, please kindly ask how much it costs for me to register a 40 by 80 plot, and also I have downed an indenture and site plan. Do I need to come and register it? Okay, you mean you have done an indenture and site plan. Do you need to come and register it, and how long will that take? And Eugene Saki says, I bought a land through high purchase. What are the process to go through to get registered? So we'll attempt to answer some of these things. But first, somebody wanted to know the difference between leasehold and freehold.
Well, freehold, as the name connotes, means holding it free. A freehold is a situation where a person or a group of people hold land without any limitation apart from the laws of the state.
Or encumbrance. And are there such freeholds?
Yes.
Are there freeholds in Ghana?
Yeah, there are. You know, people bought stool lands some time ago, what we call alienated lands, and those people are holding it freehold. But now, with the promulgation of the 1992 Constitution, you cannot create freehold in a stool land.
Okay.
Yes, that is the provision 267. It's stated categorically that you cannot create freehold in stool lands.
So which lands have freeholds?
No, lands which are individually owned.
Okay, all right then.
Yes, they are freehold. A leasehold is also an interest which is normally carved out of a freehold or allodial title. The main ingredient of a leasehold is that it's time certain. That is, it's limited by time.
Okay.
That is why we say you've been given a leasehold of 99 years. 21 years, 50 years.
Okay.
At the expiration of that period, you have to leave the land.
Or repurchase. Is that possible?
You don't repurchase.
If you have a house on it,
yes,
after 90 years, what do you do?
The whole idea is that whatever leasehold you take, the time you take, you know that whatever investment you put on the land, by the expiration of that period, you will have recouped your investment. So when you are going, you have to just go with your bag and leave the building, whether it's 10-story, 5-story, you leave to the landowner.
That's very interesting, right?
When so the advice is that if you want renewal, you must make sure it is in the covenant or the agreement that the land will be renewed for you. If you don't do that, it is not compulsory for the landowner to renew.
They can choose to resell to you, right? And then Godfred Praise is asking how much it costs for a 40 by 80 plot. You wouldn't know, right?
No, yeah.
It depends. And then he says he has an indenture. And so what does he need to do with an indenture and a site plan? Does he need to register it?
Yes, you have to register. Indenture is just the agreement.
The proof of
you
purchase.
Buy land, somebody sells you land, you enter into an agreement with all the necessary covenants or the do's and don'ts. Then you have to make sure that land is registered. Now, if you want to register it at the deeds registry at the Lands Commission, you have to submit with the requisite number of site plans signed by the Director of Survey or his representative and the person who gave the land to you. Everybody sign. Then you present. You pay some fees at the Lands Commission, because I don't want to talk about the cost here.
Well, I'm afraid we don't have a lot of time to go into that, but we're very grateful, Mr. Patrick Amoah, who is Director of Operations and Deputy Administrator of Stool Lands here in Accra. My name is Stephen Enti, and thanks for staying with us on Joy News Exclusive.